Hey, it's me again, King Scarlet. I make skits and songs almost exclusively, so it makes a lot of sense that so many of you would leave me so many comments and replies like, "Bro, when is the next Appliancer deck profile?" Many of you seem to think that 2 cards of support made the win condition anything but attack. Anyway, since I've won exactly 0 top tier events and I've won about 50% of my online matches on Yu-Gi-Oh! Omega, I think it's time I show you dummy-dums how to really play Yu-Gi-Oh! Let's get laundering. I do not like that. Get ready for an anime-style backstory monologue. In the past, I've tried everything from Wombo Combo Codebreakers to Mech Knights, to both of the aforementioned Codebreakers and Mech Knights, to going first Trapezoids. For those that don't know what Trapezoids are, they look like this. Those builds were honestly to just make up for the fact that the deck had 0 win conditions, other than the attack and hope the gods above grant favor upon you. I can't do this anymore. Speaking of gods, one finally joined our side. That's right. I'm talking Zeus, baby. We're playing War Crime Appliance Zeus. Now that we happen to say a word that sounded like Zeus, I think this is a good time to mention War Crime Zodiac, because this is sort of like that. It takes elements of it and combines it with elements from Sky Striker. So what this does is it takes your little guys and pokes with damage, and hopefully you can snowball, but also at any point in the game, as long as you have 2 Appliancers on board, which is pretty easy for you at any point, you can make a Zeus and simplify the game state. Right now I do have the deck built to go second, so we are relying heavily on those war crimes to stop our opponent from building too hefty of a board for us to get through and take control of the game state, but you can also use your side deck and side into going first cards, aka traps, and those really help, especially since Appliancers don't really have a way to interact on your opponent's turn on their own. You really need something to buffer that and provide that outside of the archetype itself. I know most of you competitive players out there that might be watching this out of curiosity are already thinking, why would you ever choose to go second in a format like this with Appliancers? But honestly, we don't have a whole lot of choice in the pure build at the moment, because you're just going to get the most benefit out of your Appliancer cards if you choose to go second. Going first, you're going to end up with just kind of vanillas on the field. Not to mention our extreme need for the battle phase. That's pretty much our win condition. You might be wondering why I'm not playing a Wombo Combo hybrid variant using the Codebreakers and trying to build a crazy board. And while the boards that those can make are very impressive, the truth is, if you want to play a deck like that, there are infinitely many that do that way better than what Appliancer can ever do, and they have less steps, they're less vulnerable to every single hand trap in the game. It just doesn't make sense to choose to play that playstyle with Appliancers, in my opinion. Anyway, let's dive into the profile and look at the specifics now. Alright, starting off with our Appliancer lineup, we've got 3 Socket Roll, 3 Copybuckle, 3 Breaker Bunkle, and 3 of our honorary Appliancer Confit there. Then we've got 1 Reuse, 1 Conversion, Terraforming to act as our 4th copy of our 3 Electro Lyrical World. So let's talk a little bit about this. Nothing too special about the lineup of Appliancer monsters. You have to play all 3 of them at 3 or you're not going to see enough names, and you really just need any Appliancer card, hopefully 2. But you can kind of play control game because we are relying a lot on our war crimes. Hopefully we've stopped our opponent and we're maintaining a simplified board state, even if we are just going Propellian attack. The best Appliancer card, in my opinion, out of this lineup is actually Breaker Bunkle, especially in a format where DPE is running loose. With Breaker Bunkle in your grave, you are protected at least once from a DPE pop, as long as the DPE did target one of your Appliancer Link monsters, or regular monsters. I guess you could use it to protect something vanilla on field. Hopefully you got to Link Summon with your Appliancers from the main deck though. And then Jester Confit is just really nice because it's a special summon that doesn't have to activate, because the other 2 that special summon, Socket Roll and Copybuckle, do have to activate in hand, which can be troublesome if your opponent got to build a crazy board because they can negate those summons. So Jester Confit is some nice backup. Reuse is at 1 because we can see it whenever we want, and then Conversion is the only thing that I am iffy on in this lineup. How do I say this? It just never happens. Let me put it that way. It just isn't something that I see resolving pretty much ever. It's there if you want it and the situation comes up that you can do the Wombo Combo attack multiple times thing, but it just doesn't come up a lot. So I have it in there at 1. I know a lot of people really like it. They think it's going to be their OTK machine. More power to those people. But again, I have not found the applicable situations where I would prefer to activate conversion over making something like Verte or going into a Zeus. Or just plainly going into one of the regular Appliancer monsters and maintaining control that way. Alright, for our War Crime lineup, it's a pretty standard lineup you can see here, but down below there are going to be 2 cards that I'm sure you have questions about, so let's address those right away. Forbidden Chalice, honestly, is pretty simple to talk about. So cards like Lightning Storm and Forbidden Droplets and Triple Tack are so much better, but I am what we in the biz call too poor to buy those, so I'm playing Chalice. If you own any of the 3, pick your favorite and replace Chalice with that, and your deck will be way more powerful than mine. So there you go on Chalice. I just wanted something in there that is another no, so that's what I threw in. It's good going first or second, so if you lose the die roll or whatever, you can just set it, which is great. Then we have Eagle Booster, so you often end up with just 1 extra deck monster in your extra monster zone and nothing else on board. That's just how the deck tends to go, how it tends to operate. And Eagle Booster can ensure that something like Verte goes through. It can ensure that your Zeus is protected. Let's say you're just trying to sit on that and maintain a board state. It can protect it from things like Lightning Storm or Droplet or whatever. It can also protect from what they currently have on board, as long as you could make the Zeus without them popping something or negating something. Let's say you made it and they have a full board, then you try to do Zeus, then they chain. You can Eagle Boost if you couldn't set up the Zeus to go twice in response to their chain, or you could save it and wait for the next turn. But either way, it just has a lot of utility and it's almost always live in the deck. So I went with these over things like Nibiru, and I know like going second cards like Sphere Mode and Lava Golem are really popular. I don't know that those are main deck cards anyway, but specifically Nibiru I know is mained from time to time, but I found for the decks that that's applicable to, they're just starting to have so much gas in them that a Nibiru is inconsequential, or they've already built up a negate to stop it. So I wanted to go with things that are always going to be good even if I top deck them. So all of that kind of combined into one big reason, I guess, or a list of multiple reasons, however you want to look at it, is why I didn't go with something like Nibiru, even though I'm choosing to go second. Next up, we have Back Row Hate because it can hurt us. Normal summons need to go through. Called By is helpful a lot. And the Dragoon package simply because that's what I own over DPE. Not much to say here. For the Appliancer extra monsters, we've got 1 Kappa Scale, 1 Dryer Drake, 1 Vacuum Elephant, 1 Keltopus, 2 Laundry Dragon, and 2 Propellion. Honestly, the best one out of the bunch is easily Propellion, but we love Vacuum Elephant for its spot removal, and of course we love Laundry Dragon because it's the best boy, but Laundry Dragon is a little less applicable than Propellion is, and it doesn't automatically die in battle most of the time. Propellion makes the other monster's attack become 0, so even though you're only dealing 1200 points of damage, you can maintain your monster on the board just a little while longer. Keltopus can come up for attack boosts and when you want things to be co-linked, but it doesn't come up a lot. We have 1 in there for when it's applicable, which isn't that often. Kappa Scale can be good when you've kind of burned through your resources and you just need to bring back a Propellion or a Laundry Dragon, and then Dryer Drake is there for that very niche opportunity when we can deal a little bit more damage and do the pseudo OTK, which I already talked about is almost never going to happen, but we had space in the extra deck, we threw it in, because why not? For the rest of the extra deck, it's pretty self-explanatory. We've got the Zeus package, the Dragoon package, Nightmare Phoenix for some spot removal of spells and traps. I found that it's easier for this deck to out monsters already, so we threw in something that's always there in the extra deck to out what's kind of more difficult for us to get rid of, which is spells and traps. And then Link Karibo honestly is only there to be an easy way to facilitate a Laundry Dragon banish, because Laundry Dragon does need to be co-linked in order to banish the monster you're attacking. Otherwise, we don't make Link Karibo much. If you're making a Link Karibo as your first resort, you've probably lost, to be honest. So we almost never make it, but it's there if we need to do the Laundry Dragon banish and have access to it. And finally, here's the side deck, which could really be whatever you want it to be. I side for going first because more than likely my opponent's going to see that I'm playing Appliancers that go second, and going first, I don't do anything. And they're going to make me do so because they'll probably be confident that they can beat me if they do. So what I do is side in a lot of traps, and I side out the War Crimes. And so we've got Solemns to stop them, we've got Summon Limit to stop them, that's a game winner on its own right there against a lot of the format. And then we have Trap Trick plus 2 other traps, Floodgate Trap Hole, which can really stop things like Sword Soul by just flipping things face down. They can no longer do what they normally do. The only thing that it doesn't really help or stop are things that fusion summon, so you gotta watch out for those. But then you have D-Barrier for that, so if you know that a certain archetype or deck is using a specific extra deck type that isn't Lynx, you can use D-Barrier, and with Trap Trick, you have 4 copies of each of those 2 traps, and the other ones hopefully will be enough support as well. The only downside to having this many traps is sometimes you do just see your entire side deck and none of your strategy, or vice versa. Sometimes you just never see your side deck, so side accordingly, side for what format you play in, or I guess what environment you play in. You do not have to copy this by any means, make it your own. If you own better cards even, put those in here. I'm just playing with what I have because it's, well, what I can afford and it's what I own, so there you go. Now we've arrived at one of my favorite portions of the deck profile to save some commenters some time. Why no discard? Even though I mentioned some of these cards already in the profile, I just like to take a minute and address some cards that I'm not running and tell you why. Some of the first things that I'm sure people will bring up, especially if they didn't watch the whole profile and they're about to comment, but maybe they got to this part, so hopefully they see at some point that I'm addressing it. Access Code, Lightning Storm, Triple Tactics, Droplet, etc. I don't own them because I don't have money. That's it. If you want to play them, put those in here and your deck will be better than mine. Why no Machine Dupe? Or Where Art Thou? Or 1-for-1? Or Jack in the Hand? After a lot of research and after a lot of contemplation, I found that they are just really bad, actually. They're just bad cards. They're not good. Hang on before you get triggered, let me elaborate. Machine Dupe gets redundant a lot. I bricked on it when I played it more than when I resolved it, so I just cut it. I tried to cut it to 2 to cut back on the bricks. It didn't work. I kept seeing it when I didn't even need it because that's built into the strategy. Yes, when it's pulled off, it's great. Problem is, I just didn't pull it off a lot. So I cut it personally. That's anecdotal evidence. Maybe you're resolving it all the time. Throw it in there if you like it. I don't know. Where Art Thou? Honestly, out of all of the ones I mentioned, this one is the best and the most valid one to play. I personally don't play it, and it is completely preference. I don't like paying the life points if I don't normal summon because the deck is already so low power. And if we're paying 2,000 life points, I would personally rather do that on a Verte to get the payoff of a Dragoon. I understand that many of you would rather have the consistency factor over the power and the ceiling factor, so that's kind of just your give and take there. So if you like Where Art Thou, you could definitely play it, and it would make the deck slightly more consistent. 1-for-1. It can be just really bricky at 1 because you might see it at a time when you just can't activate it. You do have to get rid of a monster, and if you already have the monster in your hand, you're getting rid of it. It just kind of is redundant, or it's a brick. So I cut it. I don't like it. Jack in the Hand. Well, it turns out giving your opponent a resource in this format, even if it's not within their archetype, is really bad. So the fact that they get any additional card in their hand makes Jack in the Hand honestly not worth it. Even if it's an Appliancer card, because now that's an Appliancer card that you're not going to get to draw out of your 9. And they have an extra resource, which could, at the minimum, be a discard for like a Macabre, because, you know, Invoked Dogmatic Fusion Conglomerates running around again. It could be a discard for Dragoon. It could just be a normal summon, and then they can special summon all their things, and then they use it as link material. Like, it just could be anything bad. Like, imagine your opponent gets to make Access Code Talker just because you gave them an extra monster in hand. Yes, that has happened to me. So that's why we're not playing Jack in the Hand. And that's pretty much it for the deck profile, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this was helpful. Feel free to take any of this and make it your own. I'm not saying that I'm the most correct. I'm honestly just sharing how I play the deck to hopefully inspire you guys to take this and make it your own. Just a disclaimer, by the way, there are lots of different builds of Appliancers out there that hybridize with other archetypes. I wanted to show you guys how to play the deck if you're going to choose to play it pure. I know the war crimes are like, oh really, pure? Okay. But this is as pure as I think you can make it right now and it be actually competitively viable. Now, as far as hybrid builds, I've seen a lot of success with one particular one that is piloted by Solar Flare Yugioh, and they are in my Discord if you want to join that and reach out to them and talk to them about their build, because it is really, really cool. My brain just can't comprehend it, honestly, so I just stick to what I'm doing. Normal summon one Appliancer card. Link summon into a different Appliancer card. I'm at capacity. In other words, I'm too much of a moron to play that deck successfully, but Solar Flare's really good, so you should talk to them about it. All right, that's it. If you liked the video, give it a like, subscribe, and see you next year for the next profile. All right, see ya.
And also King Scarlet was here.
If you don't think it